Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So today's video is going to be a little different to my usual content. This one's going to be very much a personal video, just me and you, me and the camera, and talking all about tilt. Now I've had a lot of you guys in the Discord or in the YouTube comments talking to me about how do I overcome tilt? How do I prevent myself from tilting? What should I do if I get tilted? Or what's going on mentally? How can I prepare myself? How can I play my best League of Legends? Now, I haven't really shared any of the information that I'm about to share within this video to anyone else apart from the team that I actually coached for the past 3 years. So, especially in 2017, 2018, 2019, I've been learning a lot, refining my craft as a coach, and really learning a lot about the mental side of League of Legends. So this one's going to be quite interesting. I'm not sure. It's going to be very, theory oriented, but again, I'm going to have a very practical element to it. Talking about specifics that you guys can implement in your own solo queue experience. But again, it's going to be very much just me and the camera talking through a bunch of stuff. So if this isn't for you, you can stop now. But again, I highly recommend taking the time to watch this video and really conceptualize it and have a think about it in your own time. Because again, it is very dense, but trust me, it will be worth it. Now, so the way we're going to do this video is I'm going to talk about a few underlying concepts that are important to understand. Then we're going to go into the specifics about tilt, and then we're just going to round it off with a little bit more theory. Now, so let's talk about firstly one of my favorite concepts with improvement. This is all concepts around improvement and preventing tilt. Now, this one is called the player versus victim dilemma. Now, back in the day when I coached Direwolves, I used to talk about this one a lot. And I always used to try and get my players to be a player. Now, what does a player versus a victim mean? Now, to be a player, it means you need to see yourself as a central character, as someone who has contributed to shape the current situation they are in and thus affect its future. Now, a player is someone who focuses on all the things that are within their control, whereas a victim, they play the victim just like in real life. They focus on all the things that are outside their control. They blame externals. They never take responsibility for anything that's happening around them. Now, you can choose to either focus on the things inside your control and be a player, or you can choose to focus on the things beyond your control and be a victim. Now, remember, if you want to be a part of the solution, you need to see yourself as part of the problem. And you can't, this is literally the crux of improvement in League of Legends, and preventing tilt is seeing yourself as you won't even be able to get to the solution unless you see yourself as part of the problem. Now, remember that all results are a consequence of the interplay between a certain challenge and the ability to respond to it. That literally, and you can kind of see how that's literally response ability. Now, remember that power is the prize of responsibility and accountability is its price. Now, if you want to be a player and totally responsible, it's obviously going to come at a cost, and that cost or that price is accountability. Now, it doesn't feel good sometimes to be accountable because every single game you lose, and if you have this player mentality, you're going to be like, what could I have done better? And it's very easy to play the victim. It's very easy and tempting to just be like, you know what? I'm going to blame the result on my bot lane or my jungler or my teammate or my duo partner, whatever it is, or even the ranked system, Riot Games for the lack of the poor matchmaking, whatever it is, it's a lot easier to go down that route. Now, this is something that will take time, and until you really embrace this over time, and it will take time, it's not going to be overnight, until you feel the power of responsibility and feel the power of accountability and own it, and over time, it actually manifests in so many different ways, and over time, if you can really embrace this, it will have massive results on your mindset and your ability to win games. Now, what are some questions that actually elicit the player response? Now, these are the questions that you can just ask yourself. Players are questions like, how did I contribute to this situation? So you can ask these questions after your game in review. How did I contribute to this situation? Number 2, could I have thought of a more effective course of action that I could have taken in that game? Number 3, could I have made reasonable preparations to reduce the risk or impact of what happened in that game? Maybe I wasn't focused from level 1, and maybe I could have prepared mentally by thinking, oh, what is their ability or the likelihood that they will level 1 invade? And lastly, what can you learn from this experience? Now, notice how all of these questions are bringing the onus on you. You're not blaming anyone else. You're not asking questions. These questions are all in your control. How did I contribute? What was a more effective course of action that I could have done or I could have taken? What is, some of the preparations that I could have done to reduce the risk or impact of what happened in the game? What can I learn from this experience? It's all me, which is very empowering. You'll notice that this is a common theme within this video. It's all about improving. It's all about putting it all on you, taking responsibility, being accountable for what actually happens in every single game. Now, generally people who get stuck in a specific elo or they get tilted, they get into this form of cycle. Now, this can get a little deep, so if you need time, if you have any questions about this, feel free to leave them below in the comments or in my Discord. Now, generally a player, because when they're tilted or stuck, they lack confidence. Now, when they lack confidence, this leads to having a half-ass attempt or a hesitant attempt at winning a game. So playing a game when they're not their best self. Then that leads to poor results, right? Because you're not going to be playing your best, so you're going to have a poor result of the game. That's then going to lead into having unsatisfying feedback because there's not really much to review in the game because you already know inside of you that you didn't really play your best. And then again, that reiterates and continues to reduce your confidence. Now, this is a never-ending cycle that it goes around and around. And until you are aware of this cycle happening in the background, you won't be able to get out of it. Another very toxic cycle that actually goes on is this one, where you have inconsistent gameplay due to a lack of focus or a lack of fundamentals, which leads to you blaming external factors, whether it's teammates, Riot Games, matchmaking, your duo partner, whatever it is. Then that leads to tilt, that leads to autopilot, and then it's rinse and repeat. Again, inconsistent gameplay. So this is why, again, I also try and focus. I always try and really talk about the importance of having solid mid fundamentals and taking complete responsibility in every single game and coming in completely focused. Now let's tie this into another interesting concept. This is one that I guess I have a personal attachment to because this was very much me when I was struggling in solo queue, and this one was again a concept that resonated with a lot of pro players as well. Now, I'm going to quickly step it through and then go back and then go into more detail. Now, generally, the overarching principle here is you go from, there's two overarching ways to bring about a confident being and your best self. The first one, this is not what not to do. This is where we go from having impulses and feelings, which lead to a set of behaviors, which reiterate a certain identity. And then there's the other way around, which is you are very clear on an identity, which then you can reverse engineer the behaviors, which bring about a certain type of feeling and impulses. Now, let's go back a little bit and talk about the first one. Now, let's talk about some of the impulses and feelings that most people have while they're tilted or stuck in a specific elo. This, they may have feelings of anger, frustration, sadness, all those mixed emotions of being tilted. Now, if you combine all that and you internalize those, you act on those impulses and feelings, that actually leads to a set of behaviors. Now, what do those behaviors look like? That looks like, a lack of focus in game, autopiloting, missing more CS, less side lane awareness, worse trades in lane, just genuinely, again, playing poorly and losing LP. Now, over time, if you continually act on these impulses, which reiterate and constantly bring about the same forms of behavior, that over time reiterates and forces you to become and identify yourself as that specific type of person. So you begin to identify yourself as the type of person who has these sorts of impulses. That is just who he is when he plays League, and that is the sort of behavior that you identify yourself as. So for example, you will eventually identify yourself as a player who, I just play all the time on autopilot. I just get tilted every single game. I don't really care if I miss CS because that's just the way I play the game. I'm not disciplined. I don't have good side lane awareness. And over time, the mental aspect of this, you become and you identify yourself as this sort of player. Now, this is so toxic and so hard to change, and it's so common nowadays within solo queue specifically and League of Legends, is that we forget that if we continually go down this cycle, we become a very less confident, less focused, more autopilot centric version of ourselves. Now, you may ask, how can we change this? Curtis, what do you suggest? Now, we can actually go the other way around. We can actually go from identity to behaviors to impulses, which would look something like this, where let's think about my best self. Let's use an example like me. My best self. What is the identity of me, of Curtis, that I want to bring about in a game? Well, I want to be the most focused, the most resilient player, the person who doesn't want to miss a single CS. I want to be the player who's constantly looking at side lanes, constantly being the player, taking full and total responsibility for my game, right? So this is what I want my identity to be. But how do I get to that? Well, I need to be aware of the identity I want, because then that will dictate my actions in game. Well, that will mean that I won't queue up when I'm not focused. It will mean that I will play when I'm very well rested and ready to put my 100% into the game. It will mean that I won't flame my teammates and, again, take a few deep breaths to be focused within the game and not tilt. It will also mean that I'll focus extremely hard on all the detail, focus on the map awareness, focus on side lane roaming, focus on my CS and trading patterns. Again, notice how the behavior is again tying directly into the identity that I want. And now, as a result, if you do these things, flowing on from that, the feelings or the impulses that are brought about because of that. And that's a feeling of, satisfaction, contentment that you won this game and you tried your best and you gave your best shot and you're actually improving. Happiness and elation that you won that game, you expressed your best self. So you can see that this is a much more healthy way of, a more healthy way of being, and overall the solo queue experience. So try this out. Yes, it is a little bit, La La Land stuff and a bit crazy, but trust me, if you can take the time to think about the form of identity that you want to be, who do you want to be? I don't even know what your name is right now on the other side of the camera right now, but whoever's watching this video, say to yourself, I, Curtis, I want to identify myself as someone who is untiltable, gets every single CS, takes the best trades, is always focused in solo queue, etc. And then again, you can bring about the behaviors because of that. Now, let's quickly talk. Now, actually, let's get into the core reasons that I feel that induce tilt in a player. Number one, they aren't actually aware of how they themselves could have impacted or altered a game. So in their mind, they feel like they played fine or perfectly in some situations, and therefore need to place blame onto all the other people that make themselves feel better about losing that game. Now, this can be fixed by just a lot of the time, just by educating them and showing them these are all the ways that you could have played this game better. So don't direct your attention and all your energy on worrying about your teammates and what they could have done better. Even if you think in your mind that you've played perfectly or fine, I could guarantee you I could watch your VOD in the first 5 minutes and literally talk for an hour about all the things you could have done better. And I could do the exact same thing about myself. Even myself at a Grandmaster Challenger level, I can break down my first 5 minutes a lot of the time for an hour and talk about all the things I could have done better. Now that, if they are aware of that, then that's going to prevent them from feeling that the game was out of their control, that they won't feel the need to place blame on others within that game. Now, number two, this is a personal favorite of mine and something that I still to this day struggle with, is having too high of an expectation of their own gameplay, where it's not based in reality. So this leads to hearing things like, I deserve to be in platinum, but my teammates always feed, or I always get trolls. Now, these sorts and all sorts of comments around this sort of thing. Now, it's easy to step back. It's not easy to step back and say, you know what? Maybe I'm actually not that good. Maybe I'm actually not at the level I think I am. Because maybe, and especially because we can actually regress in skill level very easily. Maybe you haven't been able to play so much. You haven't been able to play in a week or two. Maybe you've played another game, or you've just been really busy at work or school. And sometimes it feels really bad to just say, you know what? I'm just not a platinum mid laner. And no one ever does that. They always think, I am better. I'm the best. I deserve to be there. And everyone else is preventing me from getting there. Now, or maybe you just played on a Smurf and got worse. Now, the way to overcome this one is actually just realize that their current of that is not their current level of play, and take the ego hit and say, you know what? Maybe I'm just not a platinum mid laner. But that's okay, because I have all the time in the world to improve. It's not a race. Everyone improves at their own pace. But this is actually interesting because it extends to more of a societal problem where even from a young age in school, we are always given a pat on the back and given participation medals. No one tells us we are bad at something. Like, let's just say, for example, you're in math class and you don't get a question. No one says you didn't understand it because you were too lazy. You were too lazy in class and didn't focus, or you didn't do your homework. Everyone else will blame the teacher. They will blame the math being an incredibly hard topic. They will say, oh no, math just isn't your strong point. They will always make excuses as to why you didn't get that question. And sometimes, guys, the truth really hurts, right? It hurts. Even for me, sometimes I have to tell myself, Curtis, sometimes you're just not as good as you were. But you know what? We need to hear the truth, because that is what will allow us to focus and direct our attention to where it can be of most use to us, and actually build confidence in a really genuine way that is actually will stand the test of time, rather than, getting a, you know what, Curtis, pat in the back, you're all good. It was your teammate's fault, or you are that good, just blame something else, So that's actually a massive one for a lot of people. Now, the third one is actually people not understanding that every game isn't winnable. Even the best players in the world only have like a 55% win ratio or something. And there's literally Korean pro players that have negative win rates at the moment. To think about that, there's a player, I believe, like Kuzan or something. He's like plays for in the one of the teams. I don't know if it's in the main league, but the second league, and he is an amazing mid laner, really good. I think he has like a negative win rate. There's one of those mid laners, and it's really common, guys. So not every single game is winnable, but remember that there's a fine line between understanding this concept and then complacency. Because people can take this to the extreme and use it as a cover up for poor performances, on their own behalf. So you got to be a little bit careful. And this also ties into players nowadays not having enough patience. They lack patience, and they think that improvement comes overnight. It's like, remember that improving at League of Legends is extremely hard, right? There's no quick fix. It's not like you go to the gym one day, you lift a bit of iron, you pump a bit of iron, you go home and you're going to be jacked. It's just not going to be the case. There are things that you can do to optimize, speed up that process. But again, there's a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of time, right? So remember, and a lot of the time people tilt because they watch one of my videos, they watch it once, they go into a game and they can't implement it. And they're like, oh, this is so frustrating, I'm so bad, or whatever it is. And they get tilted. But no, you know how many games I played to figure out that strategy, or play that specific champion? I've played hundreds of games, thousands of games of Orianna on some of my best champions, so it takes time. Now, the fourth one, guys, this is a really, really common one. Now, people play so much when they're not focused. Remember that League of Legends, or climbing in solo queue anyway, or being able to carry a game or influence a game more than the average person can, actually takes a lot of focus and a lot of attention. Now, what happens if you go into a game when you're not focused? It actually leads to poorer decision making, which can actually, again, bring about a loss, which then increases the chances of getting flamed by teammates when, you misplay or something, which then leads to you becoming angry or frustrated or tilted. This person then proceeds to queue up again, not even realizing that they're not even playing at their best self. They're not playing at their current level of play. And then it just creates the same conditions for tilt. And it's just a rinse repeat. And then they play all night, lose 6 games in a row. And then you go on my Discord and say, oh, I'm so tilted. My teammates are so bad. But no, you just played when you weren't focused. Okay. And not every single time you play at night, maybe you come home from a big day at work or a big day at university or school. And you know what? maybe it's actually not best to climb on your main that night. Maybe it's best to do something else, play another game, play on your Smurf, play a few normals, play a few ARAMs, anything else, because climbing it takes a lot of energy, guys. Now, this also, if you say maybe you're just not focused for one game, maybe you're not really tired, but you've lacked focus. What you can do is what I recommend. I say this all the time: is go for a walk, guys. You know, it might be snowing where you are right now, but, you know, walk around the house or something, or go get your boots on and go trudge through the snow. Go read a book. Go do some push-ups. Go to the gym. Doesn't matter. Step away from the desk, get away from the computer, and mentally refresh, guys. And you can't mentally refresh if you're just on the computer sitting there like, oh yeah, maybe I should queue up again. Like, that's just a very inefficient way of refreshing. Now, this last one isn't really about tilt, but I thought it was awesome to mention, is that nowadays I see a constant fear of ranked, or like people call it a ranked anxiety. Now, remember, guys, that LP is a byproduct of improvement. You have to go out there and fail and fail and fail again, and then fail some more, and then fail and then fail. You know how many games I lost to get when I actually hit rank 1? You know how many seasons of just losing, getting flamed, and losing? A perfect example of is Schonfire. He now is the jungler for Team Liquid Academy. I remember when he was in my games, when he first got to Diamond, and he was originally a gold player the season before, and he used to int every game. Now, people used to flame him so hard, right? Because Shern used to just push his limits and just die and int. And everyone said, Shern, just give up. What are you doing? Stop playing the game. Stop queuing up. You're just trash. Just stop. That guy focused, and then he failed, and then he failed, and then he failed. He went to Korea, got rank 2, come back, and then failed, and failed. Went to NA, joined the main team, and failed. Now he's trying again in Academy. We're always stuck in this fairyland in our mind that we think we're just going to queue up and have a really great League of Legends experience every single time. It's just not the case. And in terms of improving, guys, you have to put yourself through the fire to actually improve. You got to push your limits, feel the pain, have those painful experiences to actually see where you're at, and then start from there. And it's exactly like gym. If you go to the gym and you're lifting really light weights, you're not really going to gain much muscle, are you? You may improve a little bit, you'll get a little bit of cardiovascular fitness, whatever, but this is the exact same for someone who just plays low elo games all the time, or they just play normal games all the time, or they're just scared of playing ranked. You will not improve this way. Now, lastly, there's a few other concepts I quickly want to talk about that I think will be very beneficial for you to understand in terms of tilt. Now, this one was one that was very big when I was on Direwolves that I used a lot for my coaching. There's a concept called attention residue. Now, the way the brain works, let's just say you are on your computer and you're on Facebook and you're in queue. And then on Facebook, a really funny video comes up, or a really controversial video, or maybe you're a political guy and, you know, a thing about Trump comes up and you get really riled up, you get angry, and you're just thinking about it. But then your queue's popped and you've already clicked accept, you're going into Champions League, you've clicked your champion, and then you're still alt-tabbing onto Facebook. Now, you're going to get into game, and the way the brain works is that it won't just, as soon as you close that Facebook tab, your brain won't just switch off and be like, oh, I'm focused. It takes time. Attention residue. Your mind will still be thinking subconsciously about what you've just watched. And the more powerful or emotional the response was to whatever you just been doing before playing, your mind's going to be attached to it. This is why a lot of the time I actually recommend only consuming League of Legends content or something that is to do with what's going to help you in that next game. Maybe watching your replay of your last game, watching a VOD on YouTube of something, or watching a guide, whatever, and then going into a game, because those things are going to be very much aligned or similar to what you're going to be experiencing in that next game. But if you're watching some weird vlog, or, you know, you're doing whatever, a cooking show, and then you go into a game, it's going to be difficult for you to go from switched off to switch on, because of this attention residue. And maybe I didn't explain it too well, but if you have any more questions about this specific topic, just let me know. Now, from a tennis coach, there was a book from this tennis coach that I got recommended. I think it was called The Inner Game of Tennis. Now, this book was really interesting. and it spoke a little bit about quieting the mind. Now he said this. He said, there's a quote. He said, "The second your mind within a game drifts and starts wondering about whether you're going to win the game or lose the game, what he recommends was to gently go back to focusing on your breathing to become present in the moment." Now, in a game, if you're tilted or you just died or you got first blooded, you had to blow your flash and you're back in base, take a few deep breaths, guys. Take a few deep breaths, in through the nose and out through the mouth, okay? Now what you do, if you focus your attention on your breathing, you'll notice that you're not going to be thinking about winning or losing anymore. You're not going to be thinking about what people are thinking about you. You're just going to be focused, present in the moment, ready to perform. Now this is a very simple thing you guys can try in your own games. It works better for others more, for some people more than others. But I found it personally to be very useful, and I still to this day use it. Now, another interesting example of this, something that will kind of reiterate or tie this all together, is think about if you think back to a time where you played your best League of Legends, right? Like maybe you played this little amateur tournament or a ranked fives game, whatever it was, or Clash, or maybe it was just a solo queue game last week that you played. Think back to that for a moment. Now, what you'll realize is that you actually can't really remember much about it, because this is because you were so present in the moment that you weren't thinking about anyone criticizing your gameplay. You weren't thinking about congratulating yourself after you made a really good play within that game. You weren't thinking within the game how to do something. You weren't thinking, how do I hit the skill shot, whatever. You were just in the moment. You weren't thinking what anyone else thought about your gameplay. Our mind entered that state where you're just being present in the moment. That's what we need to look to replicate. That's what we want to aim to replicate. And this is what the breathing exercises can help you do. Now, lastly, guys, before we round up this video, I want to talk, you've heard me talk a lot about chaos. Now, and within my Silas video, I talk a lot about the concept chaos. Now, it's important to note that there's a limit to how much you can influence the game or control a game, because you're only one player out of 10 within a game. It's a team game, right? You're only one player within 10 people. Now, this means that the game is inherently designed to be filled with chaos and disorder. This is what makes it fun. That's why there's so many different things happening every single game. That's why you can play the same map, play the same champion, the same matchup, but you will still have a lot of fun because there's so many variables. There's so much chaos and disorder. Now, that's why it is absolutely essential to be focused on making the fundamentals like CSing, map awareness, knowing your trading patterns, skill shots, etc. so well that they don't occupy space in your mind. It's just muscle memory. So that now you're going to have all the freedom mentally to be able to free flow, adapt, overcome chaos that will occur in the game that you're playing. Now that's just something I'll leave it there just for you to dwell on. And I know this was a very dense video, there's a lot of information. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I wanted to do a video like this. I'm not even sure if, half of you even made it through this video. If that's the case, that's completely fine. I thought I would do this video, get some feedback from the community, see if you like it. If it's interesting, then maybe I can do a little bit more like this, because I have so much I can talk about the game on the mental side of things, in terms of tilt, mentality, etc. Again, I just didn't think it was too helpful for the general public, but maybe it is. All right, so let me know. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And lastly, remember, I'm actually picking up my new PC today, so I'm super excited. So my next video quality will be much better. And remember that there's actually a giveaway going on at the moment for coaching, so feel free to enter that one as well. And that's in the Discord. Cheers. Thanks for watching.